वेंकटनाथार्य कवितार्किककेसरी वेदान्ताचार्यवर्यो मे सन्निधत्तां सदा हृदि रामानुजदया पात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेंकटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकम् लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्.
Today's forum revolves around the intriguing theme, Never Ever Ever. Many of you might be familiar with Devi Vishwakumar from the popular series Never Ever Ever. But you might wonder, does this title have anything to do with spirituality or Sanatana Dharma? Today we are here to explore how Sanatana Dharma texts and teachings resonate with contemporary themes and how we can delve deeper into their wisdom. First, I would like to introduce the chairman of the Gita organization, Mr. G. Sridhar. Please give him a round of applause. His unwavering dedication and tireless efforts in promoting Sanatana Dharma and organizing such enriching events are truly commendable. Let's extend our heartfelt appreciation to Mr. Srinivasan for making this gathering possible.
Not me alone. It's a big team that is there and there's visible to you as well. Thank you.
Now it's my distinct honor to introduce our esteemed speaker, Sri Dushyanth Sridhar ji. Dushyanth Sridhar is a renowned scholar and speaker who has captivated audiences worldwide with his profound knowledge of Sanatana Dharma scriptures. He has broken stereotypes in Harikatha with his impeccable English, engaging storytelling and deep insights. Sri Dushyanth Sridhar has delivered over 3,500 discourses across 23 countries, garnering more than 100 billion views on various platforms. His initiative, Abhinava Padashala, has educated over 7,000 students globally, promoting the essence of peace and love. He has conceptualized and produced several notable classical dance productions such as Adre Pashyami, a colorful, dynamic devotional spectacle, Ramayana Sudha, a production that blends seamlessly with creativity, and Srinivasa Prabhatye, a beautiful story that draws audience into its core. Additionally, he conceptualized Aranganik Padai, a project that was unique and novel in its approach. Sri Dushyanth Sridhar has also acted as the protagonist in the Mani Pravala movie Vedanta Deshika, released in 2018, and his scholarly prowess is evident in his authored book Vedanta Deshika, The Fearless Poet Scepter, a brilliant coffee table book that has earned widespread appreciation. With numerous accolades to his name, including the Sarvakala Chudamani and Harikatha Bharati Awards, and an impressive academic background from the BITS Pilani and the Indian Institute of Science, he continues to inspire millions with his wisdom and dedication. Today, Sri Dushyanth Sridhar ji will help us explore whether the theme Never Ever Ever has any spiritual significance and how we can better understand our Sanatana Dharma text. This session is expected to be an interactive one, and you are deeply encouraged to think of any questions you may have during his presentation. I request all of you to keep your questions simple and straightforward. We'll hold a Q&A session where you can seek answers to your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the phenomenal Sri Dushyanth Sridhar.
आम्नाय गन्धरुदितस्फुरितादरोष्ठं मात्स्लाविदीक्षणमनुक्षतमन्दहासं गोपालडिम्बवपुषं कुहनाजनन्याः प्राणस्य नन्दनमवैमि परं पुमांसम्. Namaskaram. Namaskaram. Extremely indebted and grateful to the Gita Jayanti Foundation, of course, the temple, the HEB. I'm back in this hall after 2019 January. So it's been a huge voluntary sabbatical that we have taken, with many things that have happened in between. The topic chosen for this mini talk, the talk is going to be mini, the Q&A is going to be longer, is Never Have I Ever. And of course he did speak about Devi Vishwakumar and Fabiola, is that her friend? Okay, so I don't know how many, what inspiration I can draw from the 4 seasons. 4 seasons? Okay. What is this Never Have I Ever? Let me make it contextual. Every religion has its own set of tenets. And followers of every religion would like to call their religion special. What is so special about Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma? That is where Never Have I Ever features. We've often read, heard, or we've been told that there are largely 4 stages of human life, which is Brahmacharyam, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. Any of these words or all of these words have you heard somewhere? Anyway, Brahmacharyam, Grihasthashramam, Vanaprastham, and Sannyasa. One of these words you must have heard somewhere. If you have not heard, hear it now. So, what does the word Brahmacharyam denote? Anybody? Yeah.
A stage of education without any attachment to, let's say, material pleasures.
Okay. He has an answer. Anybody else would like to add? Yeah. Unmarried. Next.
The stage of life where we learn Brahma Acharanam, the behavior, the way of life in which one can conduct themselves towards spirituality while being in the material world.
Okay. So that's it. What does Grihastha mean? Grihastha? Yeah.
For example, the person is engaged in family and family members and so has kids and so on.
Okay. So he's got kids and stuff. Okay. The kids are the stuff. Okay. So you have a family, you have kids. So that is Griha. Griha means generally the house. So Grihasthashramam, so we derive from the word house, so you have a house essentially. So you at least try to cover some of the steps in Maslow's hierarchy. You have ambarame, tannire, sore, you've got some food to eat, water to drink, a house, and of course kids and the stuff. Okay. So that's Grihasthashram. Okay. It did so happen that, and we don't have to even take a guess how Krishna was. He was a Bahu Grihastha. He had kids. You keep extending that S as far as you can. Even to the Long Island that Singapore has planned to reclaim. So you can go till that S. So that's Grihastha. So he had a huge family. And of course, subsequently many kids. So he is a Bahukutumbi. Way many to one function of set theory. So many wives and many children. And we've often read, been told, and that's been animated, caricatured in different ways that he used to lie. Have you heard of this? Heard? No? Yes? No? Something? You tell me. Okay, if you've not heard, hear it now. Okay, so he used to say that I have not stolen the butter, main nahi makhan khayo, I didn't have the butter, so on and so forth. So, 2 things that we are extremely sure that he lied, and he's a Bahukutumbi. He's a Bahu Grihastha. At a very later stage in his life, Krishna chose to become a teacher. So realization generally dawns late. He said, let me become a teacher now, I've been taught a lot, let me become a teacher. And he was waiting for an opportunity to become a teacher. He never got one. So when you want to be something and you never receive that, you keep waiting for the sun to actually shine. And I don't have to talk about sun shining in Singapore because it shines most of the times. So, he was just waiting for the opportunity to become a teacher. He didn't find one, he was waiting for one. And that waiting was kind of fructified while he was on the battlefield. And that battlefield, that ground was called Kurukshetra. Those of you who have visited places back in India will be aware that north of Delhi, in the state of Haryana, is a place called Kurukshetra. Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveta Yuyutsavaha, Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. This is the question raised by Dhritarashtra to Sanjaya. He had a very well qualified driver. And so this was the conversation, and this is the invocatory verse, or probably the introductory verse to the compendium called Bhagavad Gita. So that is when Arjuna has a lot of doubts. He says, how can I fight my own cousins, my own cousin brothers? They have B positive blood running in them. I am also B positive. So how can I fight them? And then he tells Ratham Sthapaya Achyuta, hey Krishna, take the chariot to the middle of the battlefield. I would like to see both sides. And then he sees both sides. He has a volley of questions. He poses them to Krishna, who incidentally is his cousin as well. And Krishna chooses to answer them in detail. Why in detail? Because all these days he was waiting to be a teacher. This is the opportunity. He literally made hay where the sun did shine. So he said, let me now use this opportunity, and whatever little he had gathered from his wiki sources, Krishna started to put them into better sentences, framed them well, and he started telling. And that is Bhagavad Gita. And in the middle, after the Bhagavad Gita Upadesha was over, in the battlefield, during the tenure of the battle, there was this young boy who was just then married and whose wife was just pregnant for a few months then. Her name was Uttara. The man was called Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu was Arjuna's son through Krishna's sister called as Subhadra. And this boy was extremely charming, very strong, very balanced, brimmed with prowess. So he said, let me go fight. And he went and fought, and we hear from Mahabharatam, and that day there was a formation in the army called the Chakra Vyuham. So it was planned in such a way. Chakra Vyuham was not an easy formation until and unless you were adept at it, to get in and walk out. So Abhimanyu did give his entire might and effort to winning the sons of Dhritarashtra, but he miserably failed. He was killed. And his wife was pregnant. So the child who was to be born to Abhimanyu didn't see his father, wouldn't be seeing his father. A posthumous child in a way. So the wife was extremely worried. Her obstetrician had said that there are 8 more weeks for her to deliver. Given the stressful conditions that she was in, she had to deliver. Meanwhile, there was the teacher to the sons of Pandu and Dhritarashtra called Drona. Drona was killed in the battle. Drona had a son called Ashwathama. Are you aware of all these names?
Yes.
So Ashwathama wanted to avenge the death of his father. He was the earliest avenger. So he said, let me avenge the death of my father. He had that vendetta. I believe there's also a movie called Vendetta, right? So he said, let me avenge the death of my father. And he wanted to kill the sons of Pandu, who were 5 in number. But again, he made the dastardly mistake of killing the 5 sons born of the 5 Pandavas instead of the 5 Pandavas. And he thought, let me go on a killing spree. I've killed the 5 sons of the Pandavas. Let me now go to the next generation. I'll go to the next PD. No, PD? Who's PD? PD's generation. How many of you speak Hindi here? So PD is the next generation. So he said, I'll go to the next generation and let me kill. But that next generation hadn't seen the light of the day. The child was still in the amniotic sac of his mother, who is Uttara. So he shot a missile, an arrow. And the input statement given to the arrow was, go kill the child. Who is that child? The child which is going to take the next generation forward. So in a way, the succession plan to the Pandavas was being cut. So this particular astram was called Apandavastram. Pandava, Apandava. It will ensure that Pandavas don't have a succession line. Drauniyastra viplushta midam madangam santana bijam kuru pandavanam jugopakukshim gadiyatta chakraha maduschameya sharanam gadayaha is the verse in Bhagavatam. So he made a public announcement. Now I am going to shoot. So he was that way very honest. He said, I am going to shoot this astram, aiming for Uttara's garbham. And immediately the mother was petrified. She was worried. She had incidentally a good working relationship with her mother-in-law, who was Subhadra. Subhadra had a co-wife. See, it was a very complicated family. So she had a co-wife who was incidentally surviving. Her name was Draupadi. And Draupadi and Subhadra had a mother-in-law who was also living. See, way back if you have connects to Bharatadesham, when we were in the early days of advertisements, we used to have an advertisement called the Woodworth's Gripe Water advertisement. Have you seen it? Yeah. Have you guys heard of the Gripe Water advertisement? No. So a child cries in the family. So the moment they see the child cry, one lady will peep and she'll say, okay, why? She will look at the mother to the child and say, don't worry at all. While you were a child, you were crying as well. And hearing the child cry, another person who's elderly to the person who has just spoken now peeps out and says, okay, the one who has just said that you were crying in childhood was also crying. So then you realize it's actually the great-grandmother, the grandmother, the mother and the child. So each one tries to convince the other, stating that crying in these years is there in the DNA. And then you realize the post-truth that none of them are dead in that family. So they all have been over-living like the Dumbledores of the Harry Potter days. So all of them live. So here you have the child which is yet to suffer in the womb of the mother called Uttara, whose mother-in-law Subhadra informs the co-wife Draupadi, who goes and tells their mother-in-law called Kunti. So the four women, quite clueless, they want to seek divine intervention. And the closest their hands could reach to divinity was Krishna. So they went and surrendered to Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Mahabaho, Paramatma, Sanadanaha, Anadimadhya Nidanaha. Krishna, you are the asylum for us. Any problem, you are the go-to solution. You are the Mustafa of our days. So, or the Jyoti store. Right? So we surrender to you, find a solution for us. That is when Krishna, as per Bhagavata Mahapuranam. Have you heard of the word Bhagavata Mahapuranam somewhere in your life, in your existence? So, in Bhagavata, it is believed that Krishna, who is the divine himself, Puranam says that Angushtamatra Purushaha, he was able to show his divinity, his knowledge, his prowess by getting inside the amniotic sac of the mother. I'm sure you're all aware of how the fetus grows. So you have three layers, amnion, chorion and placenta. And then you've got avarana jalam. Because you generally say in English, right, the water broke. For the water to broke, there should be water. That is amniotic fluid. And then there's an umbilical cord. And then that is being chopped. And finally the child detaches himself or herself from the mother. So while the child was still inside the amniotic sac, It is said that Krishna took a very small form and went around the child. The child was quite amazed. The child thought, this is the only place where there is absolutely no encroachment. And even this place has been encroached. The mother's amniotic sac. So the child, who had to conceal and control himself, started looking. Ikshane, iksha, iksha. The root word means to see. So the child started to see, iksha. But did that see straight? No, it started looking around because somebody was going around. So it looked this way, that way. So this process of seeing around is called pari. Iksha is to see. Since this child saw iksha, pari around, pari ikshane parikshit was his name. So this child was born. But Mahabharatam says, despite the divine intervention that Krishna had to show through his benign grace, through his benevolence, the child who was born was as motionless, absolutely showing no signs of living and birth, like a piece of wood. See, if you keep a piece of wood, Angara, I don't think the piece of charcoal or wood is going to smile at you and laugh. It's just going to be an insentient material. It is not going to show any motion. The child was as motionless, as expressionless, and probably as lifeless as a piece of wood or a stone. The mother said, what use does this serve when I see my child motionless? She started crying. It was a very melancholic scene. Uttara, Subhadra, Draupadi, Kunti. They said, Krishna, what is the use? We prayed to you. 4 women we prayed. N is equal to 4. We prayed. And there is absolutely no effect. That is when it is said that there was an ethereal voice. We call it Ashariri Bak. That said, whoever, see remember, whoever is a brahmachari. Remember? 17 minutes back, one said, you need to have knowledge. The other one said unmarried. And then I asked Grihastha, child and stuff. 17.5 minutes back, same case. So, the ethereal voice said, whoever is a brahmachari, condition 1, and, it's not or. You read set theory? And, or, union, intersection, complement, universal set, Venn diagram. No, yes. Is that a part of your GS? GP? Okay, fine. So, brahmachari and who has never uttered a lie, which is untruth, who has never spoken the lie, or and who is a brahmachari, if that person who suffices both these conditions happens to touch this motionless child, the child shall gain life. This was the ethereal voice, 2 conditions. Now there were many people around, but there was a dilemma. Imagine I happen to touch the child and the child isn't coming back to life. So the corollary is either I claim to be a brahmachari, which I am not, or I have spoken the untruth, which spoils my brand value. So every person who was present in that premise said, I'm leaving, I've got some work to attend to. So they all said, oh, I'm leaving. And the one who stood shamelessly there was Krishna. And the media that had gathered some correspondence from the Strait Times. Okay. So they all said, they all knew this man wouldn't suffice both these conditions, any or both. Because I just said, Bahu Kutumbi, many to one function, he had many wives. In fact, the joke that used to go around is the wife had to introduce by a number. Hello, I am 701. And that was a huge apartment complex. So it was well known that he was a Bahu Kutumbi, many wives, many children. And untruth. That's when I said, Main nahi makhan kayo. If the mother would ask, did you go break the pot next door? face we should. Do you ever think that I will ever break them? So he used to was extremely adept in posing a very innocent face. So none of these conditions used to work for him. But Uttara felt very bad. Now that she had known Krishna for some time, she didn't want to hurt him. So she said, most of them have left Krishna. I don't know if my child will come back to life. Take this piece of wood, because the child was as motionless as a piece of wood, lifeless. Try whatever you can. She said with no hope on this man. That is when Krishna said, Yadi me brahmacharyam syat. Yadi, if me brahmacharyam syat, if I have been a brahmachari, a celibate, satyam cham abhyahatam, if I have spoken only the truth, yena jivatu balakaha, let this boy come back to life. And the boy came back to life. Since this child in a way tested, examined Krishna's abilities and his vow, tested, pariksha is a test. Since this child tested Krishna's abilities and the truth, also he was called Parikshit. So if the child has come back to life and the ethereal voice isn't motivated or corrupt, the answer is Krishna is a brahmachari. Krishna has spoken the truth. That is the truth, right? Then how do we come to a consensus? You always have to optimize, because the constraint is, he's a Bahu Kutumbi. His ration book says he has many wives. But he says that I am a brahmachari. See, there are two ways of saying in English, right? Let's say maths. 5. If you just say the numeral 5, it means plus 5, which is a positive number. But you can say 5 by also saying minus of minus 5. Because minus of minus 5 is also plus 5. But saying minus of minus 5, see, if someone says, how many bananas did you buy? I say 5. No, I got minus of minus 5. The answer is the same. But why would I complicate and test the other person's mathematical skills or probably comprehensive recognition skills? Right? Unless and until I really want to trouble him out. So Krishna would have said, I have spoken the truth. But he said, if I have always spoken the truth, if I have always been a brahmachari, let this boy come back to life. So this was a different way. So, ever have I, never ever. Right? That's how it works. Never have I ever. I have never spoken the untruth. Never have I ever. I have always been a brahmachari. Never have I ever not been a brahmachari. That's the derivative, right? That's how the director gets it. So, I believe the maker of Never Have I Ever has heard Bhagavatam somewhere. Chances are there, trust me. Because, you don't generally use the word black. It seems quite racist in nature. So you say dark. And the Western world calls Paramatma the Lord. So I'm sure Rowling had the Dark Lord, Krishna in her mind. Right, Dark Lord is Krishna, right? So, and there's a Western way of telling the Indic names. Padmanabhan becomes Paddy. Hari becomes Hari. Isn't there a connection? And to every student, we believe in Sanatana Dharma, the teacher guides. So is Dumbledore. You have an Ayudham, the weapon, that's the wand. And you always utter the curse, which is the 3, and you torture the other. What is that? Cruciatus. Huh? What's that one way? Cruciatus. And there are occasions where you forget. Isn't that obbliviate? Correct? Right? Obbliviate. Now, I won't apply the charm now. Don't forget. Obbliviate. No, so, how do we come to this consensus? Because understanding Sanatana Dharma is very important. We never ever believe in just two ends of the spectrum. There's nothing in life which says that you have to be either black or white. There is a big spectrum of area between the black and the white called the grey. That's where this interpretation is. Brahmacharyam, make note of it. Brahmacharyam, the state of being a brahmachari, doesn't essentially mean you're unmarried. You can be married and yet be a brahmachari. I'm sure most of you, how many of you are over 13, 14? 16? Okay. So how many of you are less than 13? Less than 13, 1, 3. Stand up. Right? So, okay, let me make it as polished as possible. So in Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism, traditionally, the man and the woman, they marry and they register for the marriage and then they live a happy life. They produce kids. And we believe when they produce kids, they've lost brahmacharyam. No. So the intricate values of Sanatana Dharma is, despite having kids and despite being a grihastha in that aspect, if you abstain from relationship from each of yours, both man with the wife with the man, on certain days as prescribed in the Hindu Shastras, if you adhere to the Shastric way of life, where you let the person, respect the person the way they are, despite producing kids, you still respect each other's space. Despite being a grihastha on the paper, you're a brahmachari. So Krishna was married, he had kids, but he respected, gave that space, so he was a brahmachari. The second is, he said, I've never spoken the untruth. What was the untruth and the truth here? He said, the mother asked, did you eat the butter from the pot that was broken from the next door? He said, I never broke that pot because I denotes Jivatma. The Jivatma never broke the pot. It is only the body that broke the pot. Poor Yashoda, who was not adept in Socrates or Aristotle, she didn't know how to frame her sentence as per the subject and predicate and the verb and the object. So she asked, did you break? Krishna said, I never broke because I denotes Jivatma. Jivatma can never break, only the body can break. One. Did you consume the butter that belongs to Komla Mami? That butter belongs to Komla Mami. So Krishna said, no, I never had the butter that was owned by Komla Mami because nothing is owned by us. Trust me, the building where you stay, 100 years later, your body will not exist. That building will also be demolished and redeveloped building will come and somebody else will stay. So today you say, this is my house. In a few years that will be gone. So there is nothing called mine. So when she asked if you consumed the butter of Komla Mami, first of all, Komla Mami doesn't produce butter. And the butter that was churned out, extracted from the curds and the milk, was produced by the cow. And the divine quality in the cow made it produce. And the divinity to the cow was bestowed by Krishna. So Komla Mami was neither a catalyst nor a reactant. She was just audience to it. So the butter, which is the product, is not owned by Komla Mami. So Komla Mami can't claim any ownership to the butter. So the question itself was technically wrong. Did you consume the butter of Komla Mami? Because the butter is neither of Komla Mami. Neither has she produced nor has she facilitated the production of butter. So he said, I did not consume the butter of Komla Mami. Which is, he has spoken the truth. So our assumption that he has spoken the lie itself is wrong. So he said, Yadi me brahmacharyam syat satyam chamabhyahatam kena jivatu balakaha. Krishna intelligently played between the black and the white of the chessboard with this grey matter. Right? So, life is just not about the way you perceive things the way you want it to be. Right? It can be different the way it is. So I wouldn't say the word moral, probably the learning that we can all have together as a team is never ever be judgmental about certain values which you hold very close to your heart and which you firmly believe the other person doesn't have. Because there will be a certain justification to the other person's way of looking at things. And with complete confidence and firmness, I can say, with my little exposure to Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism, this religion, in a way a civilization which has been perpetual in nature, has always given its followers the liberty to interpret. It never says, do this else you will be doomed. Do this, otherwise you will be beheaded. No. You have the freedom to listen and interpret the way you want. Just check if you've got some rules that help you interpret that incident, that's all. So that's been the short, non-TED talk. With this, let's open this as a town hall for questions to be shot at me with no bloodshed. You can shoot with no collateral damage. I mean, I have a family. So, shoot. And please feel free to ask questions. I would never say ask this and ask that, but whatever you ask, make your question very brief. I'm sure you will speak really well, but don't make it a speech. Let your question have the tone and tenor of a question and as succinct as possible. Shoot. Yes.
Good morning.
Hi.
I might be wrong, but last night during your discourse, you might have mentioned this, and I wrote this question down. Why is it written that those who question and don't listen, they will always have rebirth on something along the lines?
Okay. So this was spoken between 7:30 and 7:50 yesterday, and the explanation was Ashraddhanaha. So Krishna talks in the third verse about Ashraddhanaha, and then he uses the word Mudha. So probably, as I understand of how you have understood is that Krishna says, if you don't listen or if you don't follow, you're doomed to be born again and again. I don't think that is what Krishna meant. What he says is, unless you've realized the purpose of your life, unless you realize that the purpose is to not live again, you will be born again. See, Krishna says there should be a purpose for your living. And in Krishna's opinion, the purpose of living is to finally find a way to not live again. Because the premise or the assumption for Sanatana Dharma is you live again and again. So that again and again is a problem because you end up doing repetitive tasks. And that was where a mundane example of you sing Humpty Dumpty, just not in this birth, in multiple births. If your Jivatma is fortunate enough to be in a human body. If it's a cat, you just have to roam street after street. That's different. But still. So the point is, Krishna says, if you do not realize the purpose of your life, which is to not be born again, then you, in a way, you are a mudhaha and you are doomed to be born again. So I don't see this where Krishna is trying to admonish. He just tries to say, know the purpose of your existence. He says, realize, harness your potential. Yeah. Next question. Yeah. I'm sure you have a nice name.
My name is Srinidhi.
Hi Srinidhi. Oh, she's short of funds, ask her. Srinidhi means the treasure trove of all riches. The government is going to be behind you. Trust me. Yes, Srinidhi. Go on, shoot.
So, in Mahabharatam in short, until what I can understand would be to differentiate between what is righteous and what is unrighteous, and wherever Bhagavan stands, that will always win. So, then why should, for example, Draupadi be humiliated to show that this is unrighteous and this is righteousness? Isn't there any other way to show it? Because that will be very, it will be like a defect on that person until that person lives there.
Okay, so the assumption that we are making while we ask this question is, Srinidhi, that as if everything was programmed by Paramatma and he had rehearsed it well like a drama. And then he says, okay, now to prove a point that I am there to protect you, let Draupadi be humiliated. That's not the way Mahabharata works. Mahabharata is a series of events where Paramatma is just a witness. He lets people act the way they want. And then he says, if a person during that process seeks my intervention, I help this way. See, our premise is, okay, God plans everything. So step one, he could have planned it better. If it's not that kind of a project execution. What he does is, he is just witness. Let Dhritarashtra act the way he wants. Let me just see, at times, some parents have full control over children. So the children become robots. Go sit there, say namaste to everyone. Say namaste. That's one way. The other way is the mother while leaving or the father while leaving the house. When you go there, say namaste. And after they go there, the mother won't say anything. She'll just be witness. She'll just keep looking at the child. Let's see what the child does. Then later she'll say, okay, you could have just said namaste. Didn't I tell you? Oh, I just forgot. So there is a free will that acts in that tenure when you go out. That's how Mahabharata works. Krishna has given a shastra which says, don't humiliate the woman. Yatra naryastu pujyante. He has said. He believed that Dhritarashtra must have revised this even before taking up the scepter of being a king. But Dhritarashtra, being the last minute child, never studied those scriptures and became the administrator. So Krishna was just keeping quiet, and when the intervention was sought, he came. So he is a witness rather than being a participant. In a chemical reaction, a catalyst can form an intermediate complex, but it can never execute itself into the product. It will always excuse itself. Krishna is just a catalyst. He is not a reactant. So the answer is, you said, to prove a point, why should the humiliation of Draupadi have been allowed to happen? That allowed to happen is wrong is what I'm saying. Krishna never held the reins. He gave the free will. They acted, and just Krishna said, you have not done it this way, so you are bound to rot. That's why all the sons of the... So you sow, you reap. So Dhritarashtra had to see all his valorous, gym-bodied, six-pack sons die. All 100 from one person called Bhima. Bhima was the one who was able to kill all the 100. And they were all like those whey protein, organic only kids with cardio and leg push-ups and everything. All very well built. None of them meek. But all of them had to die in the hands of one another giant WWF champion called Gita. So the father had to see all his children. None of them survived because the father didn't adhere to rules. So he couldn't have questioned about why my sons were killed, because when you are doing things out of control, things are bound to happen out of your own control. Next question. Yes.
Please do stand up while asking the question.
Yeah.
Let us pass.
Hi, namaste, your name?
Namaste sir, my name is Rasamai.
Rasamai. The Rasamai is the name given to your material body or the Jivatma? Okay, it's a material body. Okay, come on. Yeah. Sorry, please ask the question.
I'm assuming Jivatma does not have a name.
Exactly, correct. Jiva, this is the name of the body in this Janma.
So I just want to ask you one thing. You say whenever you face an adversity in life, it is because of your bad karma you have procured in your previous life. So you're telling the God is just a witness. He neither gives you good things nor the bad things. So suppose if I am facing a result of my bad karma, if I approach God, will He say, okay, this is what you have done in your previous Janma, so what you sow you're reaping now, or will He remove my karma and help me?
Okay, first, I'm assuming how... I can't tell you what he will reply, but I can just... But of course, I can always take hints from what he has spoken in the past, and based on some past lessons, I can tell you how he might reply. So he might say, when you face an adversity, Rasamai, right? Rasamai, he'll say, Rasamai, when you face an adversity, you have a pertinent question, O Lord, my holy Lord. I am facing an adversity because of my accumulated karma. Why did you have to do this? Is your question to the Lord. So the Lord will say, Rasamayi, when you're facing an adversity, you're asking, because of my karma, I'm facing this. But when there were occasions where you're happy, that is also because of your karma. You never asked them. See, when you have happiness in your life, the same rule applies that because of your karma only you're happy. But for example, you're having gelato, ice cream or some Baskin Robbins, I don't know what are the brands here, okay? You have some ice cream that gives you that pleasure, that happiness, you feel like cloud 9, 10 or 11. So, you're having your cone and you don't ask, oh Lord, what purva janma karma to have this ice cream. So the rule of enjoying or attributing your current state of enjoyment or happiness inadvertently also is never told to the Lord that because of my punya karma I am enjoying the ice cream. Only when you face adversity you use this rule. So first question, Paramatma will ask, Rasamayi, today because of adversity you are asking, oh because of my purva janma karma I am suffering. Yesterday while you had gelato, why didn't you have this? Rule 1. And second thing in your question you had said, because of my purva janma karma. Correct? Karma is not essentially purva janma alone. It is purva janma till now. See, it's a perpetual additional account. So it the brownie points keep on getting added, plus or minus. It's like a demat or a trading account. So that account would have been in progress with your past births. So it's say 1 to infinity. So you don't know how many, aparadha sahasra bhajana, we don't know how many births. So every birth is n is equal to 1. So you have 1 and that's a summation. So it keeps getting added with till yesterday, till now. So there is an additional karma. So your question was, how if everything in my life, let's say both happiness and melancholy, mirth and melancholy is as a result of your purva janma karma or the karma till now, then what does divine have to play in this? See, ultimately we are told go to a temple, there will be some kind of consensus between you and the Lord, there will be some solution. And if the divine says, मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता, जो भी पूर्व जन्म कर्मा है वो देखेगा, then what does the divine have to play? See, the beauty is, the divine has created a rule system called karma. That is for the easy functioning of the company, which is life. But that rule maker is the one under whom the rule comes. See, the one who has created the rule will tell you, see, I have created the rule, follow the rule. But who has created the rule? The rule doesn't have knowledge. See, karma doesn't have knowledge of its own. It's an automated system. So the syntax and the formula has been fed. And it works. If the divine wishes to tweak it from the back end, he can. So for the tweaking, mild tweaking is where we pray to the Lord. We say, I agree that you have created a system, but it is not as if you cannot break that system or do that tweaking. Can you do that small tweaking? That is when he says there is an arrangement. If you are bound to suffer from 100 Fahrenheit through your fever days, you have to. But the moment you propitiate, it will not come back to 98.4. It will become 99.9. That 0.1 intervention in the intensity reduction is where divine helps. Because if he has to immediately bring you back to 98.4, then there is no need for the fever at all. So there won't be a need for your karma and its action. So the divine intervention is sought only to bring down the intensity. One. Second thing, when you experience something very interesting and blissful, you don't realize the pain of what you're undergoing. See, for example, let's say there is a problem in the family and somebody says, there is one speaker from India, he keeps talking. So just try if you can sit through the talking. Sitting through itself is a first pain. You have to sit for 2 hours and see if you can get 1 or 2 things that may be beneficial in your life. So you have a problem in your family. You have parked that problem safely in your house. come for 2 hours of the lecture, and you go back. When you go back, the problem will not disappear, it will be in its fullest form. But when you're listening for those 2 hours, for a moment you forget that problem. So for that momentary bliss where you don't realize the pain of that problem is where divine helps. Divine is not to say that I will remove all your problems. That is not the way the divinity has to be looked at. This is what my opinion is. I don't know how Paramatma will answer. If he answers, please let me know the answer. Okay. Next, yes.
So, good morning. My name is Raghav. And basically my question pertains to what constitutes as a lie. Because I found it very interesting that you said that Krishna didn't lie. But also in the Mahabharata there was another incident of Yudhishthira uttering a lie, saying that Ashwatthama is dead. And his chariot touched the ground afterwards because he uttered that lie. So what was the difference in context that classifying Yudhishthira's lie as a lie and Krishna's statement as not a lie?
Okay.
Can I just add?
Yeah.
Is it just because he is using the fact of the Jivatma? But I mean, it still doesn't make sense. Why can't he just ask before he takes? Is it because he is God, he owns everything, and then it's his? Then why can't he just take it as, okay, it's because it's his? Maybe there's no lesson to be learned from him taking all the herbs and whatever.
Okay. So, there are 2-3 ways of looking at this. One, the incident where, or the series of incidents where we get to see Krishna stealing butter and this thing. It could just be viewed as a nutcut. He was a big naughty child, he was doing all these things, don't take lessons from it. That's one way, simple. Second, the other way, a philosopher will always see philosophy even in a stone. That's why he made the philosopher's stone. Right? So you see philosophy even in a stone. So that's when they say that where Krishna used to consume the butter, he didn't leave it there, he used to break the pot. So what was enjoyable and consumable was the butter within the pot and not the pot. Pot was just holding the butter. So the purpose of the pot was lost when the butter was taken. So the butter is the enjoyable and the consumable portion of that commodity. Like the Jivatma, which is the butter, which is enjoyable to Paramatma, and the body, which is the pot, which needs to be perished. So the body is perishable, like the pot. The Jivatma is as enjoyable as the butter. So Krishna, who is the Paramatma, enjoys the butter, which is the Jivatma. This is how a philosopher will look. Now coming to the point that he raised, that if a lie can be commented upon and approached in various ways, why should one person's lie become the truth while the other person's lie stays as a lie? Correct? First of all, our understanding that Yudhishthira uttered a lie itself is wrong. He never said that Ashwatthama is dead. He said Ashwatthama, the elephant, is dead. But the word elephant was not heard by Drona. See, for example, I shout, "Mom has come." While I uttered the word mom, a siren blew. So the person who hears doesn't hear the word mom. So when I have uttered mom has come, because of the siren sound, the listener doesn't listen to the word mom. Because the siren sound stops by the end of the M of the mom. The person listens to only has come. Okay? Imagine, I've said mom has come. I'll give you another example. There's a lift elevator here. Mom has come. The elevator door opens when has begins, not when mom gets concluded. So the other person listens only to has come. He comes and asks me, "Who has come? Mom." "You didn't say that," he tells me. No, I said mom has come." "No, I heard only has come." Both are true. Because that person has heard only has come, and I have said mom has come. None of us is lying. Similarly, when Yudhishthira said, Ashwathama hataha. Ashwathama is dead. Kunjaraha, the elephant. The word Kunjaraha, elephant, was vital because that meant that there were two people on the battlefield with the name Ashwathama. One was Drona's son Ashwathama, the human, and the other was an elephant fighting on their side called Ashwathama. So Ashwathama, not the man, the elephant was dead. But Yudhishthira said, Ashwathama hataha. Ashwathama is dead. Drona heard this. Subsequently, he should have heard the word elephant. But Krishna blew the conch. So the word Kunjaraha was not heard. So Yudhishthira did not lie. The concept that we have time and again heard through various movie directors, that the chariot was a feet high. You know, in Shanghai you get that train called Magellan, right? Because of the magnetic force, the train doesn't touch the track. So a chariot was similar to that of the Chinese design in India. And the moment he uttered the lie, the chariot came. It's not there in Mahabharata. It's a very well known non-fact. So Yudhishthira did not utter the lie. It seemed as if he did speak the complete truth. See, there's a difference. It seemed as if he did speak the complete truth. He did. But it was made to sound as if he had not spoken the complete truth. That's the premise. Now coming to, why should Krishna's statement be uttered as the truth? He did steal the butter and have. Why should we not call it stealing? That is where the concept of Paramatma and Jivatma comes. We firmly believe, at least as per many acharyas, that Krishna was Paramatma. So what applies to him need not, what's that in English? What applies to the geese need not apply to the gander. I don't know. Have you heard of this? What is that? Okay, you have to ask Renan Martin whenever your Jivatma goes to Vaikuntha. Okay, so the point is, Yudhishthira did speak the truth. Krishna's statement might have not looked as the truth, but it was interpreted as the truth, because our acharyas believe that Krishna is Paramatma. It may not have applied if he was not. That statement. See, for example, let's take it this way. I steal somebody else's thing, and finally the court calls me and says, no, I didn't steal it. It was the Jivatma. No court is going to let me a justification. But there in Mahabharata times, our acharyas believe that the divine was Krishna. That's how the interpretation is. Next. How many hands now? Wait, you are, okay. You ask.
Why was Krishna, my name is Atulit, why was Krishna...
my name, that name was very fast.
My name is Atulit.
Atulit. Oh, so there's no equal to you.
Why was Krishna waiting for opportunity to teach? He could have just started teaching to his kids and...
Okay, to teach whom do you need? You want to teach. What is the basic requirement? You want to teach something. Atulit dane, Tamil and then you swear. Tamil, okay. So, Atulit wants to teach. What do you need first?
Students.
So he didn't get a student. He found one.
But he had his kids as well.
His kids are. Do you listen to your parents? See, every kid is not as talented and disciplined as Atulit. So Krishna's kids were like Krishna. They were not patient. They wouldn't sit for his lecture. So he tried his level best. I can say this much. He tried his level best. None of them sat through his lecture. So the only opportunity that he could get, the opportunity that he got, was when he found Arjuna. So Arjuna said, I'm not moving from the chariot. When the student refuses to move, that is the opportunity that the teacher has to seize. So he said, you are refusing to move out of the chariot. Here I found an opportunity. Here I start giving my lecture, and he started bombarding the lecture. And Arjuna said, thank you, enough. 700 बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया. Abhi I'll start fighting. See, the moral of the story is, if you have a teacher like Krishna who gives a long lecture, the student will say, I'm done, I'll fight. But, got that? Yeah, thanks. Okay. I'll go to the end. Yeah, with it.
Yeah, actually it's a follow-up question from previous two questions. Is it the intention to mislead something that we should like be considering with a bit more importance as opposed to the understanding? Like I understand it's like the Jivatma, and because people consider Krishna God, because Yudhishthira God, what he said was not fully heard and all these kind of things. But in every single one of these scenarios, even though the outcome was for the greater good, wasn't there an intention to mislead, to do something?
Mislead what or mislead who?
Anybody. Like,
see, if we use the word lead, and of course an antonym to it called the mislead, that mislead either should be to a concept or to a person. Mislead whom or mislead what?
Mislead the person.
Who's the person?
In this case, there was quite a few, right? It was Drona, it was Yashoda, and what was the other case scenario?
Okay, so I get your question. So, the question is, it may seem as if we are giving a philosophical or a theological justification to an incident, but the contrary view is it could have also meant to mislead or probably dupe, if I can use a very crude word, the other person. If we take it that way, we can take the justification that way forward. Why should Krishna blow the conch when the word elephant was uttered? He should have not blown it, or after blowing he should have said, Dronaji kuch nahi, elephant. That would not be leading to mislead, correct? Then the person would see, though the divine chose to be a human, the human had to act as per human laws. Dronacharya was very much present in the assembly hall when a menstruating woman called Draupadi was seeking help. Where did his concept of leading and misleading go when she asked for his help? We talk about leading and misleading, right? She said, Drona, you're my father, Drupada's friend. I'm in a very, very troubled state. Right in front of this administrator, here is the uncultured, barbaric sons of Dhritarashtra who are humiliating me. Help me. What? Dronacharya, he was not a meek person. He was the guru of archery. He could have just said, you are like my daughter, I will protect you. He put his head down. He neither justified his act nor brought justice to the incident. So when he chose to be misled, he will be misled. So Krishna's act was, do not expect justice if you do not act in a justified way. You did not help. Had you protected Draupadi or had you come to somebody's help, then you can ask for justification. You never helped. You knew all the rules. Do not act as if you are not cognizant of what the rules are. You knew. When you do not have the audacity to question, you don't question me back. If you act in an adharmic way, I know how to give it back to you in the same coin. I give as good as I get or even better. That was Krishna. I can choose to say that I don't agree with Krishna's way. Which is, that's your choice. To be or not to be is what Shakespeare said, right? To choose or not to choose is your... I know two roads diverge, my yellow wood says Robert Frost. Choose the other one which is less traveled by. Next question. I know all of you are asking. I'll just go to people who have not given... Okay, you sir. Yeah.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
I'm Dhanvin Krishnan. My question is, how do we interpret the four Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, in terms of, I don't have much idea into it, apart from what they mean. So why is it segregated that way? Is there an order of importance? And what do the Shastras say about pursuing materialistic goals in that context?
So a Purushartha is a goal, as simple as a goal. But each of these goals have their own limitations and order of precedence. The four are very commonly said, known or heard. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Each of them is a destination in itself. That's one interpretation. The second interpretation is one leads to the other. So they are intermediate stages. So one interpretation is that's the final destination. Final destination, not 1 or 3. So that's the final destination. But the second interpretation is they are progressive steps. So you're on step 1 dharma, then go to step 2 artha, then go to step 3 kama, step 4 moksha. Let's take the first one interpretation, which is the goal. See, many people in this world, whether they know Sanatana Dharma or not, they do pursue material pleasure and pressure. And for them, they feel they are happy with it. So they think that Dharma is the objective, Kama is the objective. But our acharyas have said, don't view it through option 1. Then you have a very small myopic version of all these purusharthas. Make it chronological or progressive. So you begin with dharma. Dharma is in a way righteousness. Dharma is in a way adherence. Dharma is in a way charitable. See, in many contexts you use. What is the dharma of fire? To burn. See, if you keep your fingers in the fire, just because you are a learned person, the fire will not stop burning you. Oh, you have a doctorate? I won't burn you. Even if you are a doctorate, it will burn you. You can't question the fire. Oh, fire, you know what? I have a PhD from NUS and you have burnt me. The fire will say, I have been bestowed with the dharma to burn. I burn whoever approaches me. So the dharma is the intrinsic feature of an object. To burn is the dharma of fire. To cool is the dharma of water. Haven't we learned that water is a universal coolant? So water will cool. Fire will burn. To forgive is the dharma of Paramatma. To err is the dharma of human. We are born to err. That is why some known person said to err is human. To forgive is divine. So after listening to a lecture on dharma, he has understood to err is the dharma of human. Whatever you do, you will commit an error. You try avoiding, you will always do. There will be some error. So dharma is the feature. Second, it is also means charity. So where you realize and empathize with the other person. Haven't we learned in management there are two words, sympathy and empathy. You see the other person suffer. Very sad. This is sympathy. It stops that's all. That is sympathy. You take 2 steps forward and bring a solution or kind of a balm to the other person. That is empathy. This is what Lakshmipati teaches. So sympathy, empathy, these are the qualities. So that is also dharma. So dharma is a step where you realize your true potential, where you are also charitable. But to see, if I have to be charitable, I should have something in my hand. Well, how do I get that? While I work and earn artha. Artha in Sanskrit means wealth. The other meaning for artha is meaning. What is the artha of this meaning? The other meaning for artha. What is the first meaning of artha? Meaning. What is the other meaning of artha, which is meaning? Wealth. So that earning of wealth has to be dharmic. I said they are progressive in nature. So when you go to step 1, you have to look back at step. When you go to step 2, you have to look back at step 1. What is step 1? Louder. Dharma. So you look back at step 1. Dharma is adhering to the rules. So step 2 is artha, earning wealth. So when I earn wealth, I have to be dharmic. If I don't look back at step 1, then the wealth that I've earned will be adharmic. A person who robs money from the other person has earned wealth, but he has not gone to step 1, which is dharmic. So as I attain artha, I have to be dharmic, which is step 1. Third step is kama. I realize the bodily pleasure in my life, but in that also I have to be dharmic. Else, I will end up having all illegitimate relationships. Right? So I see that step 2 and step 1 are important to understand step 3. Then after realizing step 3, step 2 and step 1, I realized that the final attainment for me is to never be born again and go through step 1, step 2, step 3. That is step 4 called moksha. So Purusharthas are designed as a progressive way of looking or realizing the potential of your life so that you are never born again to undergo step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 4 is designed to cut that cyclic process. See, when you keep on going in the round, you won't know when to stop. To cut that vicious circle is step 4, moksha. You are never born. Nasa punaravartate, nasaha punaha avartate. Where the Jivatma doesn't have to come back to a material body, to one of the countries like beginning with Singapore, Malaysia, Ukraine. We don't know next Janma will be where in this part. So, and how many wars are going to happen. Till that, you are never born again. So that moksha realizes that potential. That's what most of the acharyas have committed. So that's Purushartha. In Tamil, it is interestingly called Aram Porul Inbam Veedu. That is why I'm sure Tamil is one of the recognized languages in Singapore. And you must have heard a very famed work called Thirukkural. Thirukkural has 1330 couplets by the poet called Thiruvalluvar, put into 3 groups called Arathu Pal, Porut Pal, Kamathu Pal. What is this Pal? What milks a vegan? There are 4 Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Aram, Porul, Inbam, Veedu. Arathu Pal, Porut Pal, Kamathu Pal. So Thiruvalluvar says, you read Thirukkural, you will understand Dharma, Artha, Kama. Then there will be a pertinent question. Sir, first 3 we have understood. Where is moksha? He says, I have hidden that everywhere. That is why he says, Piravikkadal Ninduvar Nindar Iraivanadi Seradar. That is not there in your 5-mark question. Assignment is also not there. Okay. So that is moksha for Thiruvalluvar. Next question. Yeah.
Namaste, Dushyanth Sridhar ji. My name is Sridhar and I have a question.
Oh. I have prosperity on both sides.
So why does the whole concept of karma and rebirth exist? It's responsible for pleasure and pain. So why can't the all-powerful Paramatma just give us all moksha and make us all happy? Isn't it easy for him to do that?
I'm sure your wish is going to reach his ears. And we will all attain moksha very soon. Okay, now the point is, see, the concept of karma or the karma theory is our shastric way of understanding or reasoning the current existence. It is an explanation that is given to us by us and by our acharyas as to why these happenings are happening. It is not as if the karma theory was designed first. Based on our existence, our acharyas have dwelt and said, if I suffer at the age of 30, I could attribute it to my actions while I was at 25. At 25, I can attribute it to my actions of 20. While I was 20, to the age of 15. To the age of 10, to my actions at 5. But if a newborn child suffers, where will you attribute the actions to? That is when they say there is a carryover from the previous birth. So karma is actually the experience that one undergoes because of the actions of the past. As simple as that. So that's an explanation that we give to us, ourselves, and our acharyas who give it to us for the happenings in our life. As simple as that. But to your question, why all this karma? Why all this suffering? You never, did you also use the word pleasure? Okay, so why all this pleasure? So that way you're very honest. So why all this pleasure? Why can't God give moksha to everyone? It's a good thought, we'll have to put it across to him. But you know the beauty is, Srinidhi, you have had a very different outlook to life. But people who enjoy, let's say they take pleasure from life, they may not agree with you. They'll say, I don't want moksha. Why do you talk on my behalf, Srinidhi? Why should I get moksha? I love gardens by the bay. I love to go to gardens by the bay. It is so good. I like to go to the Orchard Street. I would like to go to Orchard Street. I love the sale that happens during the Chinese New Year period. Good offers I get. I enjoy Singapore. If I were to be born again, I should be born again in Singapore. So some people then they'll say, why should Dushyanth and Srinidhi talk on our behalf? So your outlook is, why should everybody undergo pain and pleasure? Let everybody get motion. That is when Paramatma says, Srinidhi, you are asking, but others are not asking. So Achita Visishtam Pralaye Janto Logo Bhinna Ruchihi. See, life and the world is very heterogeneous. Not everybody will think the same way that you think. So yes, you are moksha conscious. You ask moksha, you will get. What is like a supermarket. Whatever you want, you will get.
Thank you, sir.
So many hands. Okay, you see, both of you attend the lectures so intently, you're all very learned, so you ask questions during the lecture. So some of them who don't come for the lecture, because some of them are not planned to come in the evening, right? So for how many of you have not planned to come in the evening? You can ask questions. Evening, try. Now you can ask. You raised your question. Hand. Ningana Swami.
Hi Krishna. My name is P. Krishna.
Hi Krishna. Oh, see, I speak about you in the evening. Gita, you should come.
Sorry. Yeah. So my question is, in the Shastrams, when we see in many sections, they will tell you that for taking a mantra upadesham and then doing a mantra sadhana or something like that, you need to follow these strict rules. You need a guru. You can't do these things, and all these do's and don'ts on the one hand. We see that. And then, like, let's say if you take a Purana like the Devi Bhagavatam, then you have stories like the Satyavrata and then Sudarshan, those kings, who very improperly chanted the regions like I and Kli without even completing them, and still got the abundant grace of Ambar. So, and I'm sure we see this in many other different Puranas and Itihasas. So how do we bridge the gap between these two? This is question 1A. And question 1 closely connected with that is, in today's terms, like in Kali Yuga, when we're talking about practicing, doing a spiritual practices, all of that, it seems almost impossible for our mind to be pure, for us not to do many things which our Shastras would ask us not to do. So, and there are theories about karma being done outside India, not fructifying and all of that. So, how do we reconcile all of these things in totality and understand what's the way forward? So that's my question. And I will come for the evening. Just a small tactic through to my name to get a chance to ask this question.
Okay, so to put it in simple words, he says that there are certain practices probably prescribed or accorded in Sanatana Dharma. They also come with a set of do's and don'ts, rules. Do we have to follow them? Because if we believe that only if we follow them we receive fruits, there are contrary examples who have not followed and have received it. See, in my understanding, rules are generally made to make us more civilized. To say that only the rules apply and only the rules are followed till the T, it will be executed, may be a bit flawed. But rules, when followed, make you more disciplined. There is no rule, but there is no doubt about it. You hear these things like, don't accumulate your learning process in schools for the exam period. Let your learning be continuous. Do it every day so that you don't have the last minute worry. But this is told to make life more easier, or probably easier. But it does so happen that there are certain people who say that I don't want to study every day. During the exam period I'll study. I'll do as good as a person who studies every day. Same is the case with rules. Suppose you want to get injected. The nurse or the doctor will say, don't try, don't hold yourself tight, loose. I'll give you the injection, because that makes the process of administering the injection easier. But just because the person has cried while taking the injection, it doesn't mean the injection will not act upon that person. Same is the case with rules for certain mantras. If the mantra says these are the rules to be followed, it doesn't mean if you don't follow the rules completely or partially, that process will not fructify. It will fructify. So that's how Puranic examples are. See, if Rama had a friend, have you heard the work Ramayanam, right? Rama, while he left Ayodhya on an exile, a sojourn for 14 years, he reached a place in the outskirts of Prayagraj called as Shringiverapuram. There was this hunter man called as Guha, and he was extremely cordial, very affectionate to Rama, and Rama says, Atma Samasakha, you are as good as my own Atma, you are my friend. But this Guha had this habit of never bathing. So Ramayanam says that he was into the water conservation project, climate change. So he said, believe probably water needs to be conserved, preserved. So he never used to take bath. But it is the same Rama who believed that hygiene is very important. But the unhygienic way of Guha did not stop him from getting the love of Rama. But just because he has got the love of Rama, it doesn't mean Rama is okay with us not taking bath. So, there is a rule, there is a fruit. The rule is not directly proportional to the fruit, but following that rule will facilitate in the enjoyment of the fruit better. That's all. One. Second thing, your question was with respect to 1B.
Yeah, 1B was about in Kali Yuga, if you have to do all these spiritual practices, and then it's very hard to just contextualize. Yeah.
So, see, this Yuga concept, one is to view it as a time period or probably view it as a change in the thought process. Generally, while we discourse, we say that, Kali Yuga is way bad and the other Yugas were slightly better. But Draupadi was humiliated in the Dwapara Yuga. Rama was wronged and sent on an exile in Treta Yuga. Prahlada was tormented by his very own biological father Hiranyakashipu in Krita Yuga. So, times have not been different, just that the proportion of people who are Hiranyakashipus has increased in Kali Yuga. You had one Hiranyakashipu to deal with, we have many, especially in Tamil Nadu we have too many. So we have quite a few people whom we have to deal with. So the number of, so it was Ravana in Treta. So we have Ravana 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 in Kali Yuga. So the number has increased, not the quality, the variety. The variety with the quantity has increased in Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga doesn't mean, okay, you had another sub-question if I remember right. You also said that they say that, okay, we have to do karma and all of this, but they also say outside India it will not fructify. Not essentially. See, in the traditional days, people did cross the seas or probably they were worried that their civilized way of living will get tampered. They were so very vigilant. For example, if you take a ship from Bharatadesham, and those were the days in like 150 years back, you had to take your ship journey, your voyage from Bharatadesham to England. It will take about 48 days to 60 days. And you may not have those many supplies in the ship. And you may have to excrete in the very old ship, and your excreta may stay in the same ship where you also end up eating. So all these were not practices which the rishis prescribed to. They said, how can you live in the same place where there's an excreta on one side, you're eating on the other side? All this is not very hygienic. So they said, let's not cross the seas at all. Only if we cross, we have to undergo all of this. So it was not to say that the Britain land, the land of the British, was less holier than Bharat. What they meant was, when you go, take all this pain and go there, you're okay with not taking bath for 20 days. You're okay with it. So what if I don't brush? Can't I eat? Won't I enjoy that lasagna if I don't brush? And things like that. So they never ventured out. So the concept was not to say, because if we believe that Bharatadesham is the only holiest land and nothing else is holy, when Trivikrama measured earth, we believe that he owned the earth and he measured. Did he measure only Matunga of Mumbai and RK-Puram of Delhi and Malleshwaram of Bangalore and Vesmapalam of Chennai and Maratpalli of Secunderabad? I think his legs stretched till Clementi of Singapore, and he was magnanimous enough to go till Montgomery Village in Maryland, to Naperville in Chicago, to probably Birmingham in the UK, and yeah. So the point is, Paramatma owns it, but not every inch of land that Paramatma claims himself is as civilized as the other. See, I'll give you a very mundane example. At one point in time, Simhapuri, Singapore was a part of Malaysia. Today you see a world of difference the way the city functions and is governed between a stretch of 10 kilometers. You finish Singapore and just go into Malaysia, you'll see the difference. So you see that difference in the way that it is governed, civilized, in just a stretch of 10 kilometers. So many of them, if I talk to Singaporeans like you, oh yeah, I love Singapore. I have to think twice before going to Malaysia. Why? Malaysia is also Mother Earth. But you see that difference. That is how rishis used to view India and other countries in those days. So they said probably if you go there, people will be more barbaric, they will keep eating. Because there were communities that used to eat human flesh. They will hunt humans and eat humans. There used to be a community that used to eat the brains of the dead. And so there used to be a genetic disease called Kuru, if you have heard of this. It was an encephalopathy at that point in time. So such communities where they hunt humans, eat humans raw, not even cooked, they never made a pizza out of the brain. They used to eat the brain raw. I don't know how it tasted. So, with such communities around, our traditional acharyas believe, don't venture out. See, you will also become them. When you have civilized, when you have come to step 9, you will go back to step 1 again. So that was the worry. So it was never to say that India is the holiest and other lands are very unholy. So it will fructify wherever you are. So Mississippi may be as pure as Ganga. Right? Yeah, you can ask.
Yes, Shumana, my name is Raj Kumar.
You're very famous in Karnataka. Yeah.
Okay, so I have 2 questions. One is, what is your preferred...
One question.
One, okay.
1A, 1B is over now.
Okay. Okay. What is your preferred methodology and approach to deep diving into our scriptures?
Deep diving in scriptures, okay. That's not deep diving. So deep diving in scriptures. See, I would say at the initial stages of deep diving into scriptures, it may be a bit intriguing, petrifying. Some incidents may look, oh my goodness, this incident has happened in a Purana? I can't believe. But then you realize that Puranas have been very forthright and frank in projecting all facets of the society. So you understand how the society was, is and will be. And you have a very different outlook to life. So I would say deep diving does help, but you should make time for it. And you should have the right sources to deep dive. To some extent, books help. To some extent, the original texts help. To a large extent, discourses help. To a large extent, self-research helps. So you sit, contemplate, internalize on certain incidents, you do receive better justification and answer to such incidents. So yes, deep diving does help if you have time. Rajkumar, if you have the time. Uchi.
Hi, my name is Niharika. So basically my question is that we're born with the job of having to be righteous and get karma if we're not righteous. So exactly what happens if we do something unrighteous and we don't receive karma in any birth?
See, okay, Niharika.
Yeah.
Niharika, there is nothing called receiving karma or not receiving karma. Okay? What are you breathing in?
Oxygen.
When did you realize that?
I mean, after a while, once I learned what was happening.
Till you realized what were you breathing in?
Just oxygen that I didn't know.
So, whether you know or not, the truth is you were breathing in oxygen. Whether you believe it or not, every action has karma. Whether you want to receive or not receive is not the answer. Karma is an action and karma is the result. You act, you get a result. Whether you accept, it's not about you accepting, okay, this part, I accept that karma. No. That karma is an account. For every thought that you have, there is a accumulated effort to it. See, for example, okay, let me take it this way. In the court of law, I don't know how it happens, how it works in Singapore. I kill the other person. Will I be punished? I want to kill the other person. Will I be punished? No. I didn't say that. I'm just thinking. That person, if he comes before me, I'll just pierce this knife. Will I be punished? No. So the court of law will largely work on evidence and physicality. Whereas karma is about manasa, vacha, karmana. Even if your thought is to kill the other person, that will have karma. Karma is not physical action alone. It is mental action as well. See, for example, let's say you go to the court of Yamaraja and he says, and you ask, how dare I suffer 2 hours in the morning? That man kept on talking. Person next door, he didn't have to undergo that pain. Why should I have undergone that pain? You ask Yama. I have not killed anyone, not a single person I have hurt. Yama will say, yes, you have not hurt a single person, but you wanted to hurt. Yes, that thought is there. For that 2 hours you have to undergo prayaschitta. So karma theory is also thought. It is just not action. Action is even the thought. Thought is also an action. So whether you like it or not, whether you say, अभी मैंने कर दिया, अच्छा, मेरे कर्मा को मैं थोड़ा डाल दूँगा, वैसा नहीं हो सकता है. Whatever you think, whatever you act, that karma account is 24/7 functional. Okay, so that understanding you should have. Now ask your question. Niharika, first, that karma account is active 24/7. Whatever you do, whatever you think, whatever you speak, there is karma. What do you want to do with that?
So if we, like, our mind thinks of something incorrect, or like we say something incorrect, or our actions are wrong, basically the sins, what if like we just don't get the karma for that particular action?
That can never be avoided. If you believe in the karma theory, you can never avoid karma. Good or bad. It will keep on coming.
It's not possible.
Not at all possible. It's like oxygen. See, whether you believe what you're breathing in is oxygen or not, you're breathing in oxygen. Whether you want it or not, that karma will keep getting accumulated. You can't do anything about it.
Okay.
Yeah. You're there for the lectures every day. Some people who don't. I saw you that day. That is sadhana. Samakhya. Correct. So, yeah, you get it.
My name is Priyanka.
Hi, Priyanka. Oh, you're from the West Coast. I meant. Yeah, tell me, Priyanka.
I just wanted to ask, how do you balance the modern day today and also being spiritual? Like, it's always like, okay, I want to celebrate maybe Pongal, but then I have school in the morning, so I can't do it. So in the end, I don't even learn what my culture is because I end up missing on most of it.
So, I'm just taking one part of your question. You use the word modern, right? See, this modern is very relative. In 1960 or 70s, when your parents lived, their times, they called themselves modern. Can you even believe this? In 1970, the same dialogue they would have uttered. Oh, now we are living in modern times. Just trust me, 30 years later, there will be some speaker here, hopefully. Your children will be here. And they will say, my parents are ancient. They will look at you and say, so you have thought yourself to be modern. So this word modern is very, very movable. It moves like a vernier calipers. You know, the other side of the vernier calipers keeps moving, right? It keeps moving. So modern, ancient, medieval are very, very relative. So to your question that now we are living in modern times, so how do I understand my tradition or culture better? Because, okay, there is a festival called Pongal or Deepavali, but where I am asked to celebrate with my family members, but I have to end up going to work or college. How do I do this? So, you know, US has solved this problem. immaterial of when the festival is, they celebrate on weekends. So, Deepavali is not on the day of Deepavali. Deepavali should happen on Amavasya. But it can happen only on a Sunday, even if it is a Chaturdashi in the US. The closest Sunday is the festival day. Of course, the point is, see, to be adhering to your traditions or to invoke your traditions in a very positive manner and to enjoy them doesn't essentially mean that you have to forego your other things and enjoy that. With the given constraints, whatever best you do is adhering to tradition. You don't have to forego. See, for example, there is an important exam coming up tomorrow to the child. Deepavali is Ganga Snan. I won't go to school tomorrow. Entire day I will do Ashtakshara Mahamantra Japam. That's not the way we see things, because it is also your duty to study. So you have two karmas, Nitya karma that is going around. So with the given constraints, how best you can manage is what I would see as a modern way of looking at it. Right? Yeah. There you go.
Hi sir, my name is Mrinalini. So this is related to the first question that was asked. I think I might have the wording wrong, but you said that the purpose of our life is to realize that it should be our last life, or we shouldn't have a next rebirth. So I wanted to ask, what's the difference between realizing it and knowing it? Like, let's say you tell me, so I know, like, okay, like this might be the purpose, but it's different from realizing. So what's the difference? Like, how do you get there as well?
So, in a very crude way, if I have to put, my mother, even before I was born, she had a child. She used to keep telling that if I have a child, so that time she was just knowing. The moment I was born, she realized. So realization comes with true and deep understanding. It is just not about reading the words given. For example, I say, we have to get moksha. What I'm saying is just out of my knowledge, it's not out of realization. Realization will come when you internalize and process it, and you're able to enjoy it the way it has to be enjoyed. Rather, I would put it this way. You say a person knows that there is something called the sugar cane. He knows or she knows that sugarcane is extremely sweet. But the person doesn't know how it will taste. He doesn't know how sweet tastes. He doesn't know how sugarcane tastes. He sees an opposite person, and that person says, you know what, I just had sugarcane this morning. Sugarcane, how does it look? That person says it is dark, it has got lines in between, it has got leaves at the top, roots at the bottom. Is it? Then how does it taste? Very sweet. How is sweet can you define? That person says when you put it in your mouth, you will smile, your teeth will be seen and all. Tell me more. That person will stop at one point and say, keep quiet, I'll bring one sugar cane, open your mouth. It is like this. So whatever he heard in the morning was knowledge. Whatever he tasted was realization. So that realization will come only with the previous step, which is knowledge. So whatever you listen and whatever I speak is a source of knowledge. Realization will come only when you internally contemplate. That is where meditation and dhyana comes into feature. In dhyana, you ruminate within yourself. Whatever you listen, you try to internalize. When you internalize, you get very close to realization. You feel as if you're just very close. You're as close as one can get, but you have not touched it. So that state is called realization. You're very close to it. You know how it exactly is going to look. But you have to get back to your original state. So you come out of that dhyana. And that is where you realize that I'm so close, for that itself I'm so happy. What if I actually get it? That what if I actually get it stage will only lead you to moksha. You should actually get very close to it. it's just not knowledge, it's not about a book. Page number 37, can you read that line? Yeah, that is knowledge. Your dhyana will take you very close to realization and will give you that urge to realization. And then you stop, and then you take 2 steps back, and then you see that there is a potential in you to actually get realized. That is moksha. I think we'll take one question and we'll conclude. Yeah, you would ask.
Yeah. Namaste, my name is Rishikesh.
Rishikesh?
Rishikesh.
Rishikesh. Oh, very important town.
Anyway, so my question is like, so we've seen so much Ramayana, Mahabharata, Tirukural written about what is dharma, but when I leave and when I need to, and when I act in the world and I have sadharma, how do I figure, like is there a simple way for how I can figure out what is the right dharmic choice of action to take?
See, Ramayana and Mahabharatam may become precursors or probably some kind of guides, but all the rules that apply in Mahabharata and Ramayana may not be implementable and applicable at all points in time by all people. It's all just a benchmark. See, for example, Drona, Bhishma, they all suffered not because they were bad people, because they let the bad happen. Drona did not pull Draupadi to the court and wanted to strip her naked. But while that was being done to her, he didn't question it. So, scriptures say it is just not about you doing the bad thing. But when you let the bad happen, you're as bad as the bad. Don't think by just being witness, you can absolve yourself stating that, oh, I didn't do anything. It was Dushyanth who did. I was just watching from the gallery how she was being stripped. No, you're as bad as Dushyanth. So the moral is, it is just not about refraining from the bad. Refrain from the people who do bad. That's equally important. See, let's say, how do I see this implementing in an organization? Imagine I'm working for a boutique strategic firm, a consulting firm. A very well learned friend of mine, who's a very good friend of mine, is being bribed by the other person, the client. Now I am not taking that money, but I'm saying, come on yaar, kitna mila tumhe? 2 million? Bada aadmi hai tu. So I just don't get the money, but I appreciate his act. And then if somebody catches me, see, I did not take the 2 million. I just knew he got that 2 million. So you're partaking that bad. So this is the lesson that you can derive from Mahabharata, to never partake that bad. So Mahabharata is applicable that way. The other way, for example, Ravana, extremely well talented, very well read, a man with wives and family, living a very luxurious life in Lanka, ends up doing an act as mean and as ruthless as kidnapping somebody else's wife. Can you even imagine a state like today? We are now imagine it is happening in Kali Yugam, now in 2024. The president of one country goes to a neighboring country, kidnaps the wife of some arbit person and comes. It happens in the Troy, right? So you go kidnap the other person and come. Can you even imagine? This is what Ravana does. And to that Ravana, the president of Lanka, I'm talking to those now, the president would be different. So, president of Lanka goes, kidnaps the wife of somebody else. And his younger brother, in that case Vibhishana, says, "Aisa mat kijiye bhaiya, it's so nasty to do such things. You kidnap somebody else's wife." But Ravana says, "Don't even question me. I excommunicate you. Go to the next country." And Vibhishana leaves. So the moral is, when you are doomed, you're bound to doom, you will never ever see merit in the advice given by your own well-wishers. Same is the case with Ravana. What should Ravana think? If my own brother advises me, it is meant for my good. He doesn't see that way. Who are you to advise me? The moment we ask this to our well-wishers, it means we are in Ravana's state. So Ramayana is applicable today. So Ramayana and Mahabharata need not be applicable the same way you are being described, but it is still relatable today. So these works are Rishikesh. See, there are two words. Rishi is a sage and Kesh is hair. There is another meaning. Krishna is called Hrishikesh. Ha. Hrishika means Indriyam. The one who can control his senses is called Hrishikesha. Hrishikesha. So Rishikesh and Hrishikesh. So Rishikesh is asked this question. Do we conclude with this? It's 12:05. Huh? So I'm sure. Yeah. So two things this evening. I'm speaking in English again on the 9th chapter, Navamodhyaya of Krishna, who has promised to come this evening. Where is he? 1A and 1B. So I'll see for you the audience. I don't forget. So I'm sure most of you would have made a choice by now whether to come or not. So I seriously tell you, it won't be that bad. So between 7 and 9 is the lecture in the PGP Hall. If you're coming, bring your parents. If you decided not to come, even then send your parents. So that's about the evening. And yes, if you are into reading, if you believe that books are in a way a source of knowledge and you have the eyes that can glance through the lines, and if you believe that you can make little time in your existence about reading a book, yes, I've written a book called the Ramayana Volume 1 in English, 92,000 words, 108 chapters, covering about 45% of the Ramayana, which is releasing on the 22nd of June in India. So that will be soon made available in Singapore by the first week of July. If you wish to buy, if you wish to own the book, read the book, and not return the book with the 7 days return policy of Amazon. So you can always scan this code and buy the book for yourself. And if you're done with the book, give it to the next person who never buys books. You can become the circulating library. I'm extremely thankful to Gita Jayanti Foundation, Srinivasan Mama, and of course the other Astikas who have played a major role in bringing me across the Bay of Bengal and to Singapore, and giving me a platform to speak for 3 days in the evening and one fine morning, as gloomy and as monsoony as it can get on a Saturday, to speak in front of you. I'm extremely indebted and thankful. With these two words, indebted and grateful, with which I began, I conclude. Upakrama, Upasamhara was the rule. Introduce and conclude the same way. Thank you once again for being audience for such a long time. Thank you.